Hi everyone, I am Riya and I'm very excited to have Mike Vaishnav join us on call today. Mike is a CFO, consultant, and strategic advisor to many privately held organizations. The topic of discussion for today is flexibility versus financial control and how to achieve the balance in procurement. So let's get started, Mike. To start off, how do you balance the need for strict control and compliance with the need for flexibility and speed in procurement?
Thank you, Riya. So balancing the speed and flexibility in the procurement process, along which require with the strict control, is very critical function for the procurement. Because control and compliance is in every part of the business. Like control and compliance is a key factor, and procurement when we are acquiring some of the product, things are going, cash flow is going out. We are acquiring certain products. Control and compliance is the key. At the same time, we need to maintain the flexibility. So I would give you some example. What are the flexibility along with the control and compliance? The first one would be the clear guidelines and the policy. The company should have proper guidelines and procurement policy. What needs to be followed? What are the things? What are the approval level? What kind of procurement they need to focus on, whether they're critical or non-critical. That's the one of the key function. Other thing would be a risk-based approach. So organization need to focus on the what is the risk associated with the different types of the procurement, like low risk transaction versus high risk transaction. Generally, on the low risk transaction, you don't need to have significant control because those are more recurring and recurring and low value transaction versus high risk transaction are some of the like critical transaction where you need multiple layer control. And at the same time, flexibility also required because the high critical procurement sometimes require very quick procurement. If you have to go through the detailed long process, sometimes you will miss the market opportunities also. There's an exception approval is another one which we need to focus on the flexibility. So what is the exceptional approval? So there are quite a few times company has a process workflow. On a workflow, company will go who has the specific approval one by one. So let's say they have 3 approval or 4 approval based on the certain criteria or threshold. But sometimes you need to have like to gain the market access to access the market immediately, or sometimes some of the critical product which you may not get it, you need to create some exception. And for that, you need to create the exception rule that who has the authority to bind the company into the contract and how this authority can work within exception approval. So that's exceptional approval workflow needs to be balanced, need to be incorporated in the if we are using the technology at how you can override the technology. But that's only for the very critical purchases, handful of people who can make the exception. So in that way, those people are very responsible authorities in the company and they can maintain the control and compliances. The other one, you create some of the automation of the some of the tool you can use it where you can have proper control and compliance, but the tools can expedite the process faster. Training and empowerment to the employees is also critical because without training, if the people won't know what's the process they're following, then there is always either they do not know what the company's policy or procedure would be or what they are going to approving. So that's also very critical. At the same time, company needs to focus continuously improvement on the what the process should be with the growth, with the changes in the business environment, how that process needs to be flexible and making changes on those. And then last but not least, the real-time monitoring. So all those when you're ordering or procuring any goods or services, any monitoring of those processes, feedback, those are the very critical function to maintain this control and compliance at the same time to balance the flexibility also.
Great perspective. So, just to make things a little more clear, can you explain any specific instances where a highly flexible procurement approach led to significant benefits or challenges for your organization?
So that's like when you say that the control should not be compromised with the flexibility of the any procurement process, and that's the reason there are always those goes with the challenges and benefits also. Let me give you some examples of the benefits. If the flexible process, the one of the thing is like is a speed. You can order very fast because you have the speed, and you can with the speed you don't have to go through those bureaucracy channel on the approval. You can do the quick procurement on that. You can gain the get the market access a lot faster because when you say some specific need you have it, you can control the market faster. You can maintain the adequate supply, or when you have some critical supply, you can order faster. Also, the decentralized function, like when you are, the most benefit would be if you are decentralized your organization, and if you are a global or in a different geography, you can gain access of the local market and local geography with the local expertise and experience versus having a centralized function over here. And then you can manage the supply chain very well. At the same time, you can maintain the good and long-term relationship with the vendor, and then create get the better pricing benefits from the vendor also. This is some of the flexibility has a benefits on that. But at the same time, there's some challenges also. The biggest challenges is like what I would say, flexibility sometimes create the inefficient process because there's no specific process, specific channels of the approval, specific way of the how the company has been doing the process, and trying to be more flexible, it may create the inefficient process. Another issue would be more on the collaboration side from the employees because all the department. So when there are cross-functional departments are involved, and if we have flexibility and given somebody authority, that person will not involve the other department, and there's a collaboration would be a bigger problem. Sometimes it happens like they are like some of the vendor may get the preferential treatment because of somebody flexible due to flexibility, somebody can give a preferential treatment to the vendor. Also, there's a other issue would be the biggest thing would be uh, people will resist on using the technology because flexibility sometimes technology will not allow a lot more flexibility. So people will say that, okay, I do not want to use the technology and I'm happy with the processes. At the same time, if you have a decentralized procurement function, it has those benefits, what I explained to you, but it has a disadvantage also because people cannot keep track of who's ordering what without adequate technology or tools or a data. So that creates the challenges also. So this has all pros and cons. So company needs to decide what type of facts and circumstances are, and based on those facts and circumstances, they need to decide what kind of how they want to implement the procurement process, which has the flexibility as well as the adequate control and compliance.
That's an interesting case. So, how does your organization ensure vendor quality and reliability while maintaining a degree of flexibility in vendor selection?
So vendor selection is a very key process because when you create the vendor, you just do not go out and say, hey, I want to do the business with that. So I would give you some of the steps for the key vendor selection would be. So one of the thing is like you have to have very intensive or very detailed vendor qualification process. So what that require that how the what's the vendor's financial stability, what's the vendor's if you have production plan, how the vendor has the access of market to obtain the raw material, or if it's a service thing, then what's the qualification of their employees, how qualified they are, what type of service they are going to provide, and how they're going to help us. The other thing would be like site visit. Company needs to do the site visit and check their manufacturing plant and see whether it's how is adequate for the company what we are procuring from them is coming properly, or they have ability to meet our demand, or how long it will take to meet the demand, because sometimes some of the critical orders we have to have immediate orders, and if they cannot meet the demand or if they don't have a good access of the market, that can create the operational inefficiencies also. The other thing would be strategic versus non-strategic or routine or tactical supplies. So if there's a strategic supply, you need to have like very go to the detail or critical supplies. You need to go to very detailed vendor selection process because it requires a lot more dependency on that vendor. So these are some of the things you need to focus. At the same time, you always need to have a backup vendor because sometimes what happens if something happens, some market thing happens, how vendor is not able to provide the critical products or services, then you need to have some backup in order to not to disrupt the services. Or sometimes you have a dual vendor, so for the same product, so you can divide into the two so that in that way, if the vendor cannot meet one vendor, other vendor has a backup or a dual vendor relationship, that will help also. The other thing we need to focus on the create the preferred supplier list. So what happened once you have preferred supplier list and you have gone through the detailed vetting process, you can order them and you don't have to worry about every time you need to keep checking on vendors whether vendors relationship issue. The other thing is the KPI is very important. So KPI, which includes how vendor is performing, how they have done their delivery rate, the defect rate, what's the timing of the delivery, what's the how the pricing, everything, and those KPI you need to review it on a regular basis. At the same time, you need to provide the scorecard to the vendor to give them a feedback that what kind of KPI came up and what the scorecard would be and where they need to improve it. So these are the stuff you can focus on vendor selection process, and at the same time, you need to have like a risk management is also whether the vendor is compliant with all those regulatory requirement for the government or local regulation, because you do not want to get into the situation where vendor has some issues with their not meeting with the local or regulatory requirement, and that will impact your production or your operational efficiency. So these are the few things. There are a lot more things. I can come with a lot more laundry list of the items, but these are the more critical things you need to focus when you select the vendor and how the vendors are critical in selection process.
Great. So, to get in the details of it, can you explain how your organization handles risk management in the procurement process and what strategies are in place to mitigate procurement related risks and for faster, more flexible procurement decisions?
Sure. So risk management is a critical aspect of the procurement in the organization when you need to strive the balance between the control with the flexibility and how to respond quickly with the changing market condition. So for this, for the managing the risk, you need to first of all see you have to assess the risk and identification of the risk, that what are the risks involved with that. So there are a few examples of the risks. So first of all is a supplier evaluation or a vendor evaluation. So when you select the vendor, you need to see the vendor's financial stability, their reputation, their credit check, their past performance, how they are able to meet the market requirement or not. So those are the first thing you need to focus on the vendor side. Another risk I can say is the contractual risk. So what is the identifying the contractual risk? What are the contractual terms, including the payment terms, delivery schedules, and then any liability issues or liability clause involved with the contractual term. That's the second risk you need to identify. Third one, I would say, is more on the operational risk. The operational risk is underlying with the supply chain, how quickly you can procure the product, what is the demand, what is the market, what is the natural or geopolitical issues which are going to impact your operations. So these are the third thing you need to focus. The other one would be a product and service profiling risk. So there are like some of the critical words is recurring. So for the critical procurement or critical supplies, you need to focus that how you're going to procure quickly and how it's going to impact if you don't get it because of any changes in the market or inflation with the pricing. While the low risk, so it require more scrutiny versus the other low risk profile or recurring purchase maybe have more flexibility. And then other one would be a quantitative and qualitative analysis by using the SWOT analysis or any risk matrix or other data analytics. You need to focus what's going to happen. And the other biggest risk I would say is the demand and supply risk in the market. And then demand and supply changes because of the with the changes in the business environment, inflation, geopolitical issue, market condition, etc. So these are the first of all you need to identify what are the risks would be. And then you need to find out what is the risk mitigation strategy. So whether one of the risk mitigation strategy is the first of all, if we look at from the supplier, you need to make sure they are financially stable. That you need to check your credit check and making sure they are financially stable so they're not going to close down their business where we have a key dependency on them. The second thing you need to focus how's their production capacity or their procurement capacity where we are relying on them to buy the product and they are going to deliver in a timely. To mitigate this risk, you need to have a diversification on the suppliers. We always have like multiple suppliers or backup suppliers or dual suppliers. So in that way, if one person would fail, you can focus on the other side. The second thing you need to have like a pretty thorough contract management. So either you can use the contract management tool, contract management software, or your internal review and making sure you have been analyzing the contract in very detail. So there will not be any contract dispute at the end in terms of the payment or delivery or any other condition which you have to focus your resources in getting the unproductive time with the legal issues and everything. The other thing I would say the inventory buffering. So inventory buffering is like maintaining the safety stock so you don't have to rush at the last minute to rely on any vendors. for say like when you have some critical requirement for any inventory. You need to have another thing is like a just in time or what do you call just in case type of inventory system. So just in time is more on the more recurring type of thing where you can order immediately, where there's enough supplies in the market or enough supplies with the vendor, so you can gain it very faster. But versus just in case is a very critical type of inventory where sometimes you may not have it gain immediately. So what happens, you need to keep some buffered stock or incremental inventory, or you have to order in advance so that you don't have to go into the situation where you are in a you have a problem for your operations. The other thing, you focus on the scenario planning. So you plan the scenario based on your own requirement, based on the market condition, based on the demand and supply, based on the vendor situation, and you order or you procure the inventory based on that, or procure the services also based on that if any critical services you need it. So in that way, those scenario analysis help you with the what are the critical function should be and how you mitigate that. Other thing would be a predictive analysis, which you can tool like AI tool or other tool can do the predictive analysis based on the market forecasting or demand, and based on that you can determine what the procurement plan should be. So these are the all those things you have to focus it, and sometimes you can create the risk-based algorithm also. And based on this, of course, with the use of AI or use of any other system where you can predict the market. So these are a lot more other mitigation strategy, but these are the key mitigation strategy. You focus on the risk, where if you mitigate this easily and there will not have any operational issues, you have more operational efficiency, and there won't be any risk associated with that.
Excellent details. So, in what ways has your organization integrated technology or automation into the procurement process to streamline approvals and ensure compliance?
So integrating technology in your procurement process is to streamline the overall procurement is a key thing. And what people like to focus more and more technology lately, to rely on the technologies to make to achieve the operational efficiency. So I will give you some of the example. What are the things companies are doing it? One is the e-procurement system. So this implementing the e-procurement system that will automate the complete procure to pay process from the purchase acquisition approval to all the way to making the payment to the vendors. In that way, what happens, this e-procurement system, either you can have like offline tool or it can integrate to your ERP that will help you to make the process lot more smoother with the total good compliance and control. The other thing people can think of is doing the automated workflow. The companies are creating the automated workflow based on the predefined criteria, predefined threshold or rules, and based on that they will for the vendor, for the amount, or for the product, and then they can create the automated workflow integrate with their system to make this process efficient. The other one would be like more on the contract management software like CMS type of thing, where they can implement this contract management software to monitor and manage the contract and making sure that they are in the compliance and all those criteria has been made for the various contracts. The suppliers portal is other one where integrate the suppliers or integrate the vendor system with through the supplier portal, such as like OCR or PDF thing or invoice processing via API, where suppliers can submit their invoices and communicate with the company online, so they don't have to worry about manual intervention, or I shouldn't say less manual intervention. And in that way, this process can be like pretty smooth on making the communication with the supplier. The other one is making sure that any system, if you are using the offline system for any e-procurement system for procure to pay, you integrate with your ERP to have better financial control and better visibility. At the same time, better closing the financial books in a timely manner. The other thing would be AI and machine learning, which is a pretty wide thing. You can use AI from all the way from the communication, process flow, market analytics, predictive analysis, all those details you can use for the AI. And digital signature is other one where you don't have to shuffle the paper for the people's approval or signature. So digital signature is another one of the technology you can use it. And also the audit trail and reporting. Some of the audit trail you need to give it through the data analytics. People have a different tool for the data analytics. where they can get the dashboard or data from the various procurement, whether it's a purchase order or a procurement or by type or by vendor. In that way, they can do the spend analysis and making sure there is no unusual trend on spending, and that way technology helps in all different aspects.
It's fascinating to know how technology plays a role. So, would you like to highlight what potential role you see for AI in your procurement processes?
So AI lately has been becoming very popular, and it has been like is enhancing the process in the procurement by allowing the flexibility as well as the control. So AI, if you use at very high level, you can use from procure to pay process, from approval to what you call opening up to PR, acquisition, routing through the purchase acquisition to the various approval level, converting into the PO, sending it to the vendor, and getting back, and then and then also integrating with your ERP. So AI has a like endless potential for this procure to pay process. Also, AI will help us very fast in accrual analysis. When at the month end, you can focus on what is the outstanding. That accrual process makes AI makes accrual process very faster. Other thing also AI helps is making the communication, internal and external communication, a lot faster. And you don't have to wait that, because there are quite a few times with the AI chatbot, you can have a communication done a lot efficiently and faster without human intervention based on the predefined algorithms. In that way, anybody wants 24/7 with the different time zone, different geography, or in the same geography, people are not around, AI can support in providing all information regarding, and if any question has been asked, it has been answered instantly. Also, with the help of AI solution, you can create specific dashboard. I'm not saying that ERP will not do that, but ERP always have some limitation versus AI can be more flexible. So these are some of the, I would say, tactical part of the AI where you can focus on the procure to pay process. But there are some of the more, I would say, strategic part of the AI also. So AI can help you in the inventory management solution. It can predict the inventory. It can predict your production cycle. And of course, ERP can, there are some of the module can do that. But this is more user-friendly way of predicting some of the inventory and demand management. It will also provide the predictive analysis, which gives what the market condition would be, what the market demand and supply. That information AI can collect, and based on that, people can make the decision a lot faster. Also, some of the AI driven process, like some of the forecasting process or the demand generation process, or managing the demand and supply as well as the production cycle, AI made that process a lot efficient and a lot faster. And then last but not least, it is also for the control and compliance. So AI will helping us managing the control and compliances, and whether make sure that this company is following all those regulatory requirements or legal requirements. Any has been not followed, then AI can flag those issues and people can focus on correcting that a lot faster. So in short, AI has a very high potential in the procure to, of course, there are all those finance process. I would strongly believe that AI has a very high potential, but the procure to pay process, AI makes very efficient by tactical way of complete procure to pay process solution, as well as some of the strategic items also. And also at the same time, AI can easily integrate with any ERP system. So that will help to get the data in and out of the ERP system. Also, if the company has a production cycle is connected with the ERP system, it's easy to interface or interchange the data with the ERP system and AI.
That is an exciting area. So it's been a pleasure discussing the balance between flexibility and financial control in procurement with you, Mike. Thank you so much for taking your time out and sharing your valuable inputs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.